Loujain al-Hathloul, who fought Saudi Arabia's ban on women driving, appeared before a judge on Wednesday, shaking uncontrollably, to learn she was being sent to terrorism court, her family said.
Here's a summary of the article.
Saudi Arabia has moved the trial of prominent women's rights activist Loujain al-Hathloul to a court for terror-related crimes. According to her family, al-Hathloul, a prominent women's rights activist, was arrested along with about a dozen other female activists in May 2018, just weeks before Saudi Arabia lifted a decades-old ban on female drivers. The jailed activist, who appeared in court on Wednesday, looked weak and her body was shaking uncontrollably and that her voice was faint and shaky. Her sister, Lena al-Hathloul, said in a Twitter post. The United Kingdom-based human rights group Amnesty International on Wednesday said al-Hathloul should be freed immediately and unconditionally. Amnesty's Gulf branch reported that al-Hathloul had ended her hunger strike 2 weeks after starting it. Some of the activists arrested with al-Hathloul have been provisionally released, while others remain in detention amid what campaigners have called opaque court trials for charges that include contact with foreign media, diplomats, and human rights groups. The pro-government Saudi media has branded al-Hathloul and others as traitors, and her family has alleged she experienced sexual harassment and torture in detention, including electric shocks and waterboarding.
This post received a score of 63,000, with an upvote ratio of 93%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
I hope that girl survives, but we're talking about a country that beheaded a woman in 2012 on charges of witchcraft.
They appear to believe that this is still the 1690s, delusional bastards.
I'd venture to say none of the people accused in the 1690s were actually guilty either.
But they all failed the witch test. Which test?
Which test?
Which test?
We'll throw you into the river. Should you swim to guilty? Should you drown to not guilty? That's what broke my brain. Once you were accused you were going to die, and that sucks ballsack.
But better to die a Christian than a witch, hence the guy who, while being tested for witchcraft through the process of having rocks stacked on his chest, used his last breaths to denounce Satan and call for more rocks.
Saudi courts, royal family funds terrorism abroad. I sleep. Saudi courts, woman wants to drive. Real shit?
Well, it's an absolute monarchy after all. Of course there's no separation of powers and the courts sleep. They couldn't do anything about it anyway.
I recently learned that the official constitution in Saudi Arabia is the Quran, so any laws that aren't in the Quran are actually laws, but royal decrees, same thing in practice of course, but still pretty crazy aren't.
Greater than so any laws that aren't in the Quran are actually laws, but royal decrees. This is generally the case for any absolute monarchy. There is only a distinction between laws and royal decrees in constitutional democracies, where a law would be approved by the parliament and a royal decree only by the government. In this case, a royal decree is the monarchy equivalent to an executive order, with no parliament, or a powerless parliament. Such a distinction makes no sense.
Sure must be fun to be an absolute potentate.
Greater than today the world will be watching. If Saudi Arabia wants to match rhetoric of progress with actions, it should #free Loujain immediately and unconditionally. The group posted on Twitter, the Saudi ruling family kidnapped, tortured and murdered a well-known journalist, on foreign soil, and virtually nothing became of it other than the US selling them $23 billion is arms instead for $24 billion. Do you really think they care if the world is watching? The world has known for a very long time the women are treated like shit in Saudi Arabia. Until that area runs out of oil, they will be able to do whatever they want.
Greater than until that area runs out of oil, they will be able to do whatever they want. They could hold a show trial tomorrow, then cut her head off in a city park the day after and everyone would be unhappy, but nothing else would happen.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.